God, you are. Oh, you are. You are, you are. God, you are my joy. Joy is what you are. God, you are my peace. Peace is what you are. God, you are my love. Love is what you are. God, you are my joy. Joy is what you are. My joy, my peace, my love. My joy, my peace, my love. God, you are my joy. Joy is what you are. Yeah. God, you are my peace. Oh, peace is what you are. God, you are my love. Oh, love is what you are. God, you are my joy. Joy is what you are. My joy, my peace, my love. My joy, my peace, my love. God, you are my strength. Strength is what you are. God, you are my help. Oh, help is what you are. And God, you are my life. And life is what you are. God, you are my joy. And joy is what you are. You are my joy, my peace, my love. 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 God, you are my joy. Oh, yeah, yeah. Na, 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 na. God, you are. Oh, you are. You are, you are. God, you are my joy. Joy is what you are. God, you are my peace. Peace is what you are. God, you are my love. Love is what you are. is what you are. God, you are my help. Oh, help is what you are. And God, you are my life. And life is what you are. God, you are my joy. And joy is what you are. You are my joy, my peace, my love, my joy, my peace, my love, my joy, my peace, my love, my joy, my peace, my love. My joy, my peace, my love, my joy, my peace, my love. God, you are my joy. Oh, yeah, yeah. Na, 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 na. God, you are. Oh, you are. You are, you are. God, you are my joy. Joy is what you are. God, you are my peace. Peace is what you are. God, you are my love. Love is what you are. God, you are my joy. Joy is what you are. My joy, my peace, my love. My joy, my peace, my love. God, you are my joy. Joy is what you are. Yeah.
Hello, hello, and happy Sunday, beautiful people. It is so very good to be here with you on this Sunday morning as we gather together for the weekend service to celebrate the magnificence and significance of the presence and power of God operating in, through, and as you, in, through, and as all of us. And let us begin, as we always begin, by grounding ourselves with prayer, and we will use a reading to center ourselves, a reading today from the Daily Word. The word today is loving, and the affirmation: the boundless love of God expresses through me. I am loving. To be loving means to be kind, understanding, and generous. It means forgiving grievances easily and seeking to understand myself and others. In striving to be loving toward others, I begin with myself, exercising self-compassion. When I make a mistake, makes forgiving others easier. Taking time for self care makes it more natural for me to be a nurturing presence for others, treating myself well helps make my generosity spontaneous and frequent. Loving is the very nature of God. I am a spiritual being, which means love is my nature too. Through my loving nature, I am positive, optimistic, hopeful, and faith-filled. I am the heart and hands of God on earth. I am loving. And again, the affirmation, the boundless love of God expresses through me, I am loving. And so from this place of awareness, I invite you to get still and close your eyes. And we take a breath in and we breathe out. Centering ourselves in mind, we breathe in again and we breathe out. Bringing the focus of our attention here and now, we breathe in and we breathe out. The past is gone, the future is yet to come. We are here now. We are here now. We are here now. There is only one mind, only one power, only one presence that is working in all, through all, and as all. There is one life. That life is Mother, Father, God. That life is perfect, whole, and complete. That life is my life now. That life is your life now. That life is all life now. Every expression that we see or can experience here on planet Earth is an expression of the all in all. We are one, we are one, we are one with God. As I recognize that God is and is right here, right now, I know that God neither comes nor goes. I know that this power neither comes nor goes. I know that this presence neither comes nor goes. It is always here. Oh, and I relish in that good news on this morning, that all of God is here. Anything that you could ever need or desire or want God to be, it is here now. We do not have to look for it. We do not have to beg for it. We do not have to write in journals for it. We don't have to do anything to make it appear. It is right here, right now. Love, joy, peace, healing, freedom, abundance, power. Whatever you need, want, or desire God to be, it already is. And it is right here, right now. For again, we are one with God and one of God. We are God's good idea. We are individualized, undivided, particularized expressions of the all in all. We are holy and unique. We are unique and divine. We are sacred and divine. We are God's good idea. From this place of awareness, I now speak this word in faith. I now speak this word with joy. I now speak this word in confidence on my behalf and on behalf of every soul that is listening here and now as we gather together for the weekend service. We are grateful and thankful for Celebration Spiritual Center. We are grateful and thankful for this community that continues to remind us that we're worthy. We're grateful and thankful for these teachings that empower us, not scare us. We are grateful and thankful and so grateful for these teachings that support us in actually living through sometimes unimaginable suffering, sometimes things that don't make sense, but we have tools that allow us to move through the situations and come out victorious on the other side. I am so grateful and thankful for all that will take place today, knowing that we will leave here differently than when we walked in, that we will leave here feeling and knowing our worth, that we will leave here just feeling good, knowing that we are possibilians, knowing that all things are possible for us. And we get to decide what is possible. From this place of awareness, I now release this prayer. I release it back into the law, which is always in operation, always responding to the mold of thought that we provide, the pattern of thought that we provide. And so we make sure that that pattern is aligned. We make sure that that pattern is loving. We make sure that that pattern is supportive, and we know that nothing but good can come from it. From this place of awareness, we lift up our voices as we release this prayer and we say, Amen.
Amen.
Ashe.
Ashe.
And so it is.
And so it is.
And so it is. And so it must be. Yes, yes. Well, hello again. Happy Sunday. I'm Pastor Greg.
I'm Pastor Yolanda.
And it is wonderful, wonderful, wonderful to be here with each and every one of you on this Sunday morning. I'm looking forward to a powerful service as always, looking forward to the meditation, the music, and the message, looking forward, continuing to grow and learn in the ways that we do. If you are a first-time guest, hello, welcome to you. We're so happy that you decided to join us. We know that you could stream any number of services. We know that you could connect with any number of communities. And so we're grateful that you chose to hang out with Celebration Spiritual Center today. We're confident that something will be done, something will be said that will support you in thriving in your life and living an empowered life overall, not just through this week, but actually your entire life. And so however you got here, whether someone invited you or whether the algorithm invited you, we're grateful to have you here this Sunday. Now, the information you see here on your screen is how you access your digital connection card, because we'd love to stay in touch with you. And this is also your way to stay in touch with us and know how to contact us if you need to. Just text welcome to this phone number, 347-472-1078, and you'll receive a link, a response with a link. Click that link that takes you to the digital connection card. Enter your information. We just need your name and your email address. Submit that and you're all set. You'll receive a follow-up text that says you're all set, and you'll be on our mailing list. You'll receive all of the correspondence that we send out throughout the week, letting you know about classes, also providing powerful information that will support you in continuing to thrive in your life and stay abreast of what's happening at CSC. And you can feel free to shout yourself out in the comments as well. You already see there are those that have done that. And you may find that there's someone in your city, state, or country that is also streaming right now with you. So from this place of awareness, this is a wonderful moment for us to tap into our news and updates so that we can move forward with the meditation, the music, and the message. Today is the third Sunday, which means it is God Talk Sunday.
Yes, yes.
The God Talk is your opportunity to ask questions. We know that on this path, there's a lot of unlearning that takes place, and there's inevitably brings up a lot of questions. And we recognize that you need to be able to learn how to apply these principles directly to what's happening in your life. Because if you can't apply it to what's actually happening in your life, then it's just useless information, right? It's a useless exercise. But we know, and our lives have continued to prove to us personally and in working with so many folks over the last 11 years, that these principles do work when you work them and when you properly understand them. And so the God Talk is a wonderful way. This is a free session, right? And all you have to do is show up, and that's happening via Zoom. And so you have to be on our mailing list in order to get the Zoom link and password. For those of you, if this is your first time, the information that I just sent you, when you text welcome to that phone number, and you'll see that information again in the stream. Once you submit your information, then you'll receive an email with the God Talk link and password. So we look forward to you all joining us today at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Every fourth Sunday is Healing Sunday. So next Sunday, we will have a specific and special Healing Sunday prayer treatment to support our community in continuing to hold the highest vibration about healing and continue to know that healing is possible. We're still receiving so many wonderful messages and emails from folks about their healing experience. I received a wonderful email just this past week from someone in our community that is experiencing wonderful healing. And we know that this will continue to be as we continue to hold this consciousness of healing physically, mentally, emotionally, financially, whatever it may be. Healing is possible. It's available to you. Be here next Sunday and bring someone with you. We are encouraging everyone to register to vote. The deadlines are coming quickly throughout the United States. And if you are already registered, please double check your registration. We know that voter rolls are being purged. We know that there are those who thought that they were registered and believed that they were registered and were registered at one point, but realized they needed to register again. In some cases, I heard someone just recently who they found that out on the final day that they could register for their state and were able to still get registered. So don't make an assumption, just check, right? And you can go to vote.org and check that. We're continuing to share as well this graphic because you can see there are so many states that are coming up. Alabama is tomorrow, Iowa is tomorrow, Massachusetts is the 26th, Michigan is tomorrow. There's so many, Pennsylvania is tomorrow. And so we want to make sure that we're registered and also sharing reliable information with those that may need it. This graphic is from whenweallvote.org, which is another reliable organization that you can trust to check your own registration and to get the details or point you in the details about your polling places, et cetera, et cetera. Tune out the fear, tune in the vision. As we are in election season, we want to keep our minds on the world that we want to create, the world that we want to see. And so this wonderful offering, I'm happy to be a part of it, is something that can support you in doing that. And you can sign up at any time. So if you missed the previous days, no worries, sign up now, and this will support you as we're moving closer and closer to November 4th. All the information is there on your screen. You can text the phone number, or you can go to myelectionintention.com. If you have a prayer request, we encourage you to send that prayer request to prayerchampions@celebrationsc.org. We are always holding the highest watch for our entire community, knowing the highest and best for you. And we recognize that you may have a specific prayer request for yourself, or you may want to submit that on behalf of someone else. And we encourage you to do that. Also, we love to hear from you when the prayer is answered, when there's the shift, when the miracle happens, when something wonderful takes place as a result of your willingness to release, cast the burden on the mind of God, and go free. And so you can email us at that same email address to let us know how prayer is working in, through, and as your lives. Every Wednesday morning, we gather together for the Momentum Prayer Call at 7 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. This is a wonderful way to continue the momentum that we create on Sundays. It's also a beautiful way to be intentional about your day, to start your day by getting definite with the infinite, by starting your day by listening to the words of truth. We share a reading, we pray, we move on with our day. We also record the prayer, and so the most recent prayer is available anytime, 24/7, by using the playback number you see there on your screen. Enter the access code and wait, and the most recent prayer will play. I'm excited to let you know that my album, One With You, is back and available on streaming platforms. It has not been available for streaming for about the last 6 years. This album was originally released in 2010, and wonderful songs are on this record. Many of you know some of these songs, Soul 21 has sung them, and of course we use them even today. God, You Are My Joy was playing during the countdown. You can use that QR code. That'll take you to Apple Music, but again, it's available on all the platforms, Spotify, Tidal, wherever you stream and listen to your music, you can find this record. And I trust that you'll make it a part of your collection and enjoy it. There's more coming. All the great winners have great coaches. We recognize that we're in the final quarter of this year. And as I love to say, that champions are not made in the fourth quarter. They're made in practice. They're made in that time that they're working with their coaches. And so we recognize that some of you may be in need of support. Some of you may be looking for support as you're finishing out this year, as you're working on certain goals, or maybe you want to prepare for the new year. PY and I are available to work one-on-one. And of course, you can't work with both of us at the same time, but you can make a choice. If you want to work with either one of us, just send us an email, and then we'll proceed from there and send you all the information. Again, this is something that we just want to make sure that folks are aware is available to you if this is something that you are interested in. The Affirmative Prayer Mastermind registration is open, and we're getting close. We're getting close. I know you've been hearing us talk about this class for several weeks now, and it's like, oh, I'll get to it. Yeah, I'll sign up, or I'll think about it later. Well, we only have a few more Sundays left in October, and we begin in November. On Monday, November 4th, for 4 weeks, the cost is $97. You can use the QR code to take you to the registration page, or you can go to celebrationsc.org/register. But for me, what's most important is to hear what folks are saying about the class. I'm just amazed. My prayer is showing up in so many ways. I'm amazed at how many ways it manifests. Someone else, I love this. I can't be the same after this class. There is a feeling and an energy that I have never had before. When I'm praying, that feeling continues with me all day. I know that whatever the future holds, we have a tool to use right here. And then my favorite, I want to thank you to everyone who said my affirmative prayer and prayed for me. It's official. I accepted my job offer today. Prayer is working. Prayer is being answered. prayers being answered at CSC via this class. It's only 4 weeks, and you can change your life. You can have the same experiences of students who have taken the class this year, and better than that. So again, you can go to celebrationsc.org/register or scan the QR code. The cost is $97. The other class that we have offering, and these are the last 2 classes for 2024, the Best Year Ever class. This is a class that will support you in preparing for the new year. It's available in the Multi-Manifestor app, so you can start at any time. You can start today. And one of the things that I'm providing with this is our 3 live Q&A sessions in October, November, and December. The first session happens this week. So if you've been thinking about starting this course, you want to make sure that you're able to be a part of the first live session this week. But again, I want to share with you what folks are saying about the class. I've manifested a quieter mind. This is a major for me, as I was always going 100, either one way or another. My faith is strong, and I am in a better place. I always wished I could have a place in the mountains or maybe near water. This year, that desire has manifested, and I am both in the mountains and steps away from a beautiful lake.
I
Again,
love it.
this is a result of doing the course and following this work. Another one, I've manifested a full-time position with benefits, working where I love, doing what I love with people I love. I'm so grateful. It works and always for your good. Keep visioning. And finally, my dream seemed so far-fetched at the time. How do I even begin to work towards it? My work with PG helped me break it all down step by step with spiritual tips and tools, along with gaining a strong belief in what's possible for me. Again, the course is available. You can purchase the course and begin today. And then the first live Q&A session happens on Wednesday. Scan the QR code or go to celebrationsc.org/register. The cost is $97. Our series of the month that we're highlighting is Reimagine the Bible, which is really supporting us with our Book of Job series this month. This is part 1 that focuses on the First Testament. We encourage you to check it out. It's available on our YouTube channel. We also encourage you to subscribe, like, and share. If you are watching this right now on YouTube and you haven't subscribed to the channel, click that button to subscribe. And as you see posts across YouTube, social media, like the post, share the post. This is how folks get to know about CSC. We have always been a word of mouth marketing church, right? Because we're looking for those that are looking for what it is that we're about. And so you may have people in your communities and your circles that are looking for what CSC is all about. So like and share those posts so that folks can know this good thing is going on. I'm reminded of a story we heard once where someone was shocked to find out that there's a church that's teaching worthiness.
Mm-hmm.
They're like, I've spent so much time, embracing and learning my worthiness and going to therapy. And there's a church that reinforces that, because there are gospel songs that sing, Lord, I'm not worthy.
Yeah.
And so it's powerful what happens when you just share something as simple as that. And someone finds out that there's a place that reinforces a profound principle like worthiness. And that concludes our news and updates for today, which means we have the wonderful, wonderful, wonderful opportunity to now go within as we are led with love and so much care by PY in the meditation experience.
Ah, yes, yes. It is time for the meditation experience. The time that we take every Sunday to go within and remember the truth of our connection. Remember that there is a divine presence that is operating and moving in, through, and as us. Remember that the truth of our being cannot be changed by outside circumstances or mistakes or conditions. Remember that we are one with the divine. And this power and presence is moving in, through, and as us, and in, through, and as our lives. And we are so excited and grateful to know it. But more importantly, we are open to welcoming it even more. When we look out into the world, sometimes we get persuaded to move in a direction that is not for our good. We get caught up in what's happening out there and we become fearful. We lose track of our divine guidance, not because it's not there, but because our focus is elsewhere. And so we take time every Sunday to go within, to remember that there is only one mind, power, and presence, and it is operating in, through, and as our lives. And in those times when we feel disrupted, dysregulated, just bring ourselves back to the truth. And this month, our truth that we are sharing and affirming is divine power, divine peace and harmony surround me. Divine peace and harmony surround me. When we say divine, that is nothing in opposition to it. As we move through our day, it is there. As we breathe, it breathes us. Divine peace and harmony surround me. Divine peace and harmony surrounds us now and always. No matter what we're seeing, no matter what we're experiencing out there in the world, there's an internal awareness, an internal compass that is grounded in peace and harmony. So let's tap into that now, shall we? Let's go ahead and prepare ourselves. Bring your feet to the floor, plant the palms on the tops of the thighs, and just that simple act of maybe raising the heels, wiggling the toes, we send the energy down through the feet and then we relax them, letting that connection between the feet and the floor, the ground beneath the earth, and that which is within and divine. Let it support us now. And look around the room. Notice where you are. You're right here, right now. You're not in the past worried or the future in fear. You're right here. And from this place of knowing and of safety, allow your eyelids to gently close. And that simple act of closing the eyelids signals the internal activation of peace and harmony. That simple act of closing the eyelids reminds us that we can connect to the breath and slow everything way down. The simple act of closing the eyelids triggers the internal vibration of peace and harmony. And from this place of awareness, let's just take a few rounds of breath to notice, to be, and to feel peace and harmony. Whether the breath appears to be deep or shallow, it matters not. We place no judgment on ourselves or the breath. We are just in gratitude that the breath is flowing. And this divine breath, this is the same divine presence that we experience as peace and harmony. Beautiful, everyone. Now let's take conscious control of the breath, sending our focus of attention deep into the low belly. As we breathe deeply, we signal our nervous system that it is okay to relax. As we breathe deeply, we welcome in the peace and the harmony. So let's breathe together. We will breathe in for 4, hold for 4, release for 4, and then relax for 4. Together, inhale into the low belly. Hold for 4. And open the mouth, relax the jaw, and just sigh it out. Just release whatever tension you might feel, if any, and just release. And welcome the silence. In through the low belly again, expanding, dropping the breath nice and deep. And hold. And release the sound, release the breath, sigh it out. And welcome the peace. In through the low belly, up through the rib cage now. Taking that breath from that nice low place, expanding the sides of the body. Hold it there. And without collapsing the body, just release the breath, release the sound, release the stress. And welcome the peace and the harmony. In through the low belly, up through the rib cage. We've expanded the sides. Now expand the front and the back, making more room for breath. Hold it there. And sigh it out. And rest in the harmony and in the peace. In through the low belly, up through the rib cage. Now allowing the breath and the energy to rise up to the center of the chest, the heart chakra. And when you reach that top, hold it there. And release the breath, sigh it out. And welcome the peace. Again, in through the low belly, connecting low breath to mid breath to high breath. Hold it at the top. And sigh it out. Now let's take this full breath and extend it a little bit, relaxing even more, slowing our count down, slowing the breath down, slowing the mind down, and welcoming the peace and the ease. Inhaling together for a count of 6. Breathing now. Inhale. And hold. And closing the lips and exhaling through the nose. And this will be our form of breath work for the remainder of our meditative time. Breathing in and out through the nostrils. Let's practice a few rounds, slowing it way down, realizing that we are surrounded by peace and harmony. Beautiful, everyone. Even when our mind wanders, we can bring it back to the breath, bring it back to our affirmative thought, and welcome the peace, the harmony. The world outside might appear disordered, but the truth within us is that there is order. There is divine peace and harmony, and we welcome them all now. Let's send that energy, that relaxation into our feet. Relax the feet. There's no need to grip or hold or brace against. We just welcome in the peace and the harmony. Let that energy flow up through the soles of the feet, across the ankles. Relax the ankles. Energy flows across the shins and the calves, where we focus our attention, our energy, our breath. We relax and welcome the peace and the harmony. Energy flows across the knees. Give yourself permission to welcome more flexibility, more forgiveness, and yes, more peace and harmony. Relax the knees. Energy flows across the thighs and the glutes and the hamstrings, these powerful muscles that move us about the planet. We give them permission to relax now. Relax the thighs, the glutes, and the hamstrings. And just settle into the seat where you are. Let it be a powerful example of being held and surrounded. As the energy flows from the base of the spine, making its way up, we inhale through the nostrils. We exhale through the nostrils, and we allow the peace and harmony to rise. Breathing in, exhaling and allowing. As the energy flows in and up, see, feel, imagine that energy moving on the breath, flowing in and up. As we exhale and allow, breathing, allowing the energy to flow uninterrupted, just like our peace and our harmony. In and up. Exhale and allow, letting it flow out the crown of our head. And letting that energy surround us now, support us now, as it flows back down through the crown, across the third eye, down the throat, across the shoulders as they relax, down the arms and out the fingertips. As we prepare for our silent time, go ahead and scan your body. Notice if there's any tension, anything that would keep you from receiving, from being surrounded by peace and harmony. Let it go now. I will monitor the time. You take the inward journey. And if the mind wanders, it is okay. Be kind to your wandering mind and bring it back to our affirmative thought. Divine peace and harmony surround me. Divine peace and harmony surround you. Divine peace and harmony surround us all now. While our eyelids are still closed, we enjoy the feeling on the inside that nothing can separate us from this peace and harmony. The external world can appear chaotic, but deep within us there is a peace and a harmony. And with our eyelids still closed, we remember to bring that energy back with us, that calm, that knowing, that connection. With the palms on the tops of the thighs, inhale, draw the shoulder blades up by the ears. Exhale as we release the shoulder blades back and down. Slowly waking the body by inhaling and exhaling, releasing the shoulder blades nice and easy, back and down. And last time, inhale up. Exhale as we release the shoulder blades back and down. Stop the movement. Notice the center. Bring the palms together. Plant the thumbs into the sternum. And if you are able, bow the chin towards the fingertips, nice and easy. Allow the eyelids to gently open. No strain on the eyes. No strain on the experience. Inhale. Raise the chin. Raise the gaze. Release the breath. Maintain the peace. Namaste.
Yes, yes. Maintain the peace. Namaste. Thank you, PY.
You're welcome.
Well, we are continuing to dive deeper and deeper into our series on the Book of Job, God Trauma, Lessons from the Book of Job. But of course, before we get into the sermon, we're going to hear from Soul 21, and I will be with you on the other side with today's sermon topic, What About Your Friends? I'll see you on the other side.
I invite you to hear the words of this song and put your hands together for Will Palin, Will Stone. Stop walking around here unprepared. Stop being scared. Stop doing all the crazy things you do. That ain't you. Stop wasting precious time you have complaining about your circumstance, believing that you're what you're going through. That ain't you. Don't you remember who you are? Don't you remember? And even after all this time, please tell me why you don't know what you're here to do. Did you know that when I made you, you were pure love? Did you know that when I made you, you were whole? Did you know that you were made from pure divinity? The true mystery to unfold. Fill your heart with love, let go of hate. Focus your mind and meditate. Create start your life anew. And I guarantee the moment that you do, you'll introduce yourself to you. Did you know that when I made you, you were pure love? Did you know that when I made you, you were whole? Did you know that you were made from pure divinity? A true mystery to unfold. Share your world and don't you hesitate. Focus your mind and meditate. Create yourself and start your life anew. And I guarantee the moment that you do, you'll introduce yourself to you.
Yes, yes, yes. Love has spoken. I love that song. That's one of my favorite songs written by my dear brother, Kahari Lemuel. Shout out to Chicago. If you don't know about Kahari, look him up. He is a genius mind, a beautiful soul, spiritual brother. And that's just one of many great songs that he's written. Well, hello, beautiful people. Happy Sunday. It's so very good to be here with you. Life is good and it keeps getting better and better and better all the time. Whatever day, whatever time it is where you are on this day, I know it is good and will continue to be so. I want to dive right into this sermon. And so before we begin, I would love for you to join me in the centering prayer and repeat these words after me. I welcome the Spirit of truth into my mind and let it grow in my heart. Thank you, God, in me, through me, and as me. Amen. Ashe. And so it is. Well, as always, I want to review quickly what we've discussed in the past few weeks. So we started in week 1 with Job's trauma. And in Job's trauma, we really centered understanding that what we're doing in this series is we're using a trauma-centered, trauma-sensitive lens to read this text. And one of the most important things that we can understand as we enter reading this particular wonderful story is that the writer of Job wrote this as a critique of the traditional point of view of the covenant God that rewards and punishes, right? And so you cannot understand anything about the text if you don't understand that, right? Because you will take certain statements to be facts about God when in fact the writer is saying that's not who God is. Last week, in week 2, let the survivors speak. Understanding that we're using a trauma-sensitive lens, we understand that Job is traumatized. And what the writer is doing is he's using the character of Job to speak for his own traumatized community. And so when we read the words of Job, when we read the lament of Job, we're reading his damn, dams and whys. And what I shared in that sermon last week was that we need to create space. We need to have safe spaces and safe belief systems that support those who are suffering, innocent sufferers, those who are victims. And I named many different types of experiences, also those that are sometimes the families of victims, those who are no longer with us, but we need to hear and know their stories. But so often these voices are repressed. So often these voices are made to feel that they must have done something wrong. And that's not the case. And so when we read the words of Job, we can think about all of those innocent sufferers that are screaming out their damn, dams and whys today. So this week, in discussing this week's sermon, as I was sharing some thoughts with Pastor Yolanda, she shared with me, she encouraged me to use the title today, "What About Your Friends?" Right? And that is, of course, inspired by the great group TLC. And it's interesting because we were having that conversation, and then this funny meme showed up this week that I saw on Facebook that said, I'm just realizing that TLC is to the kids today what the Supremes were to us. So those of you that are of a certain age, and particularly shout out to Gen X folks, right? That's who TLC is to the kids. That's who TLC is to my daughter. And it's so awesome because I actually got to see TLC when I was in LA this spring, and I had an awesome time because I felt like I was back in high school, and it was wonderful to hear those songs. They still got it. They were amazing. If you have an opportunity to see TLC live, go see TLC live. They did all the hits. It was wonderful. So today, if you don't already know, we're talking about Job's friends. And I think this is a wonderful moment to also give you something in terms of biblical scholarship and to understand this beautiful text that we're reading, this beautiful book that we're reading, is that the book of Job is actually 2 parts. Now, see, we don't get this when we read it in the compilation called the Bible, right? We just read it all the way straight through. But actually, we're only dealing with part 1. Part 1 is chapters 1 through 27. Okay, so that's like Act 1. And then part 2 or Act 2 are chapters 28 through 42. And actually, chapter 28 is considered an interlude, right? That then takes us into the next section. That's one of the textual clues that we have, that, we have 2 parts. And that's very important to understand. So the first part, we're dealing with an understanding, and the writer uses so much colorful language to really get us to understand what Job is feeling and going through, right? To make, you cannot say that you don't understand that Job is in great pain, right? And then we also get the voices of the friends. It's in the second part that we then get to the voice of God and the remedy and the conclusion. And I also want to center us again to remember, as we're talking about Job's trauma, what are the three areas of trauma that Job is experiencing? One, the extreme pain experienced when there seems to be no reason to stay alive, and when death at birth or even suicide is an inviting alternative. Two, the bitterness of experiencing the betrayal of friends who assume guilt as the reason for suffering and reject any appeal to accept the word of the sufferer. Now, I didn't say this last week, but this is just like when folks criticize a woman for what she was wearing instead of consoling her because she was assaulted. Hello, somebody. The frightening angst, number three, of the believer who has an acute sense that God relishes terrorizing them as if they were one with the wicked. So now we meet Job's friends. Friend one, Eliphaz. Friend two, Bildad. And friend three, Zophar. And those of you that are deeply familiar with the text, you know that we meet another voice in the second half. He's not necessarily considered one of Job's friends, right? He is someone from the community. We'll talk about him in the later week. So that's Elihu. But again, he's not considered one of Job's friends, so we're not going to bring him in today. The writer of Job is laying out three distinct yet related perspectives that the traumatized community the writer represents has been hearing over and over again. These perspectives and voices are reflected in our own world and time in history. You will see parallels not just in religious or spiritual spaces, but all throughout our society, definitely politically, but culturally, within relationship dynamics today. You see all of these things. So let's look at the first friend. The first friend is Eliphaz. And what Eliphaz represents is what would be known as the prophetic tradition. And what's interesting about the prophetic tradition, right? We understand, there are many prophets, right? Of course, prophets like Jeremiah and other prophets like Jonah and the great prophet Isaiah, and Samuel was a prophet, Elijah, right? All of these wonderful prophets, right? And one of the things that's unique and specific about them is, as we read and meet them in any one of the biblical texts that we may encounter them in, there's an automatic assumption that the word of God that comes through them is in fact the word of God and cannot be questioned, right? That if the prophet speaks, nobody can question the prophet. If the prophet speaks, the prophet has in some way, shape, or form heard directly from God, and therefore we can take it as authority. This is why in many spaces, even today, right, the words of the First Testament prophets are quoted as though they are the words of God, when in fact they're the words of the prophets. Y'all hear what I'm saying? And so Eliphaz is already speaking from this assumed authority, unquestioned authority, because I'm standing in the prophetic tradition, right? And so he assumes that Job is guilty. He assumes that Job is guilty because only guilty people experience the type of suffering that Job experiences. And again, this is based on the prophetic tradition over and over and over again. The prophets are saying, woe unto you. You have not, kept my commandments. Therefore, I will smite thee. Woe unto them who does not blah, 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 right? And so this is what's just factual. If you're experiencing this great suffering and you're now, not only have you lost all of your family, you've lost your entire wealth and livelihood, all of your cattle, your camels, the oxen, donkeys, all of that stuff. Your wife doesn't want anything to do with you. All your children are dead. And now you're afflicted with sores and you're in great anguish and pain. This only happens when you're wicked. And Eliphaz says something here. This is in Job 4:7. I'm reading from the New Revised Standard Version. Think now, who that was innocent ever perished? Or where were the upright cut off? So see, you hear the assumption of Eliphaz. He's like, anybody that's innocent doesn't experience these things. Anyone that's upright would never experience these things. And so Eliphaz believes you reap what you sow, but simply and specifically from the point of punishment, which is a lot of the ways that people use that phrase even now. You all may remember some time ago, I believe it was last year, or maybe it was earlier this year, I preached a sermon, you reap what you sow, but it wasn't from the place of punishment, right? The idea is gardening, I reap what I sow. If I plant cucumber seeds, I will get cucumbers, right? If I plant tomatoes, I will get tomatoes. It's not a statement about punishment. But unfortunately, this particular way of thinking, this particular way of being, again, that we see over and over again, perfect example, and this is why we got to be careful with the things we say. Anytime you say God don't like ugly, you're operating in this tradition, right? You're operating in this thing of God punishes the wicked. You do something wrong and something gonna happen to you, right? And many of us have learned that way of thinking so long that then to take the words of Job, the thing we have feared the most comes upon us, right? That when we believe, as Stevie Wonder said, in things we don't understand, we suffer, right? When we believe that that's how it happens, life can only give us what we believe. Life can only support us from the place that we believe. Now, the other thing that's interesting about Eliphaz is Eliphaz believes in what we would know today as original sin, right? The place that he's talking from is from the idea that the story of the Garden of Eden is literal truth. By the way, you can go back to last year, September 2023, to the Finding Eden series. We talk all about the Garden of Eden and the creation story in Genesis. So if you're not familiar with that, go back to that series. We do a wonderful Reimagine the Bible series on that. And so he believes that humans are sinful at the point of birth, at the point of our existence. And the reason why it's important to highlight this and also to understand, I was talking earlier during the news and updates, this idea of we're a spiritual community that teaches worthiness. Teach that you were born worthy, right? We operate from that understanding and that idea that we get through A Course in Miracles, right? You remain as God created you, perfect, whole, and complete, right? Not that you were born sinful, that at the point of your existence, you're bad, wrong, sinful. And so Eliphaz says this in the text. This is chapter 4, 17 through 19. Can mortals be righteous before God? Can human beings be pure before their maker? Even in his servants, he puts no trust, and his angels he charges with error. How much more those who live in houses of clay, whose foundations is in the dust, who are crushed like a moth. And so that idea of talking about houses of clay and foundations in the dust, this takes us back to the Adam and Eve story. Because if you know either one of the creation stories, you know it said that Adam was formed from the dust of the ground. So he's pointing back to that thinking, that understanding that if we're dust, of course, we can't be worthy. Of course, we can never be righteous before God. Right? He goes on later in chapter 5 and says, but human beings are born to trouble just as sparks fly upward. Matter of factly, sparks fly upward. Have you ever seen a fire, the sparks from a fire? They always fly upward. That's a scientific fact, right? And so he's saying, just as that is true, so it is true that all of us are born to trouble. We're born bad. We're inherently bad. And it's interesting because Job says something similar later in chapter 14. And I want to talk about this because this particular statement from Job is something that in my lifetime and growing up, I heard a lot as a factual statement about humanity, where Job says in 14:1, a mortal is born of a woman, few of days and full of trouble, right? In the King James Version, it says a man is born of a woman and of a few days full of trouble. And that was a statement that is used to remind us that we're sinful, right? I've heard many preachers and teachers go to that very verse and say, right, the Bible tells us man is born of a woman and a few days are full of trouble. Two things are important. Now, one, what I just shared, as I read the words of Eliphaz, who says human beings are born to trouble just as sparks fly upward, but we understand something about Eliphaz now. We understand something about this text, that the writer is giving us three perspectives that the writer does not agree with. And in the second half, the writer is going to to tell us why he doesn't agree with it and actually debunk that way of thinking. But so many people read the text and it's like they're just, it's just like if you just took a script from any movie and just took a line and recited that as this is the fact. Except it's the words of a character in a story that has a certain point, has a beginning, middle, and end, and is written to invoke a certain type of thinking, is written to, in this case, to support a specific community and to support a specific idea. So even if you read, but humans are born to trouble just as sparks fly upward, that's not a fact. That's what Eliphaz believes. And that's what the writer is, he's giving us this voice, he's giving us this perspective so that he can debunk it later, so that he can critique it later. And so later when we read Job saying something similar, man is born of a woman in a few days full of trouble, we have to remember what's going on with Job. One, we've had his dams and whys. Then we have his friends who are not consoling him, right, and spiritually gaslighting him, or just and victim blaming. And in between, Job continues to lament, and Job's anguish gets louder and louder. As I said last week, they turn into screams. And so when he's making the statement here, a man is born of a woman in a few days full of trouble, that's not him stating a fact. That's stating how he feels based on his trauma. It's like, well, this must be true based on what I'm experiencing, based on the way it seems that this God is unfairly treating me, then this must be what the truth of life is. That we're destined to just feel bad and to have a life full of trouble. Because this is why he says previously, as we talked about last week, he's like, I wish I had never been born. Because being born brings this, I don't want to be born. So that's what that line is about. It is not a statement about the state of humanity. And I think that's healing, and I think it's powerful to understand what we're reading and to understand why that line is there. But again, it would be like taking any line out of a play or any line out of a movie and saying that this is the truth of all humanity without understanding that you're reading a story, right? And you haven't gotten to the moral of the story yet. Now, the other thing about Eliphaz's understanding of God is abusive, right? On one hand, he's like, oh, God does all of these wonderful things and God protects people. But then in another line, he's saying, God binds them and then heals their wounds, right? Very abusive, very, very interesting perspective on God. And also his view of God does not align with the realities of people's lived experiences, because while he's saying that God is doing all of these wonderful things and protecting folks and pulling them into safety, what he is also saying is that God punishes the wicked. But yet there's evidence all around the community at that time that wasn't true. And we see that now, particularly and specifically, I'm thinking about our current election. It doesn't make sense that someone who incited an insurrection, right, and someone who has been indicted, I don't know, is it 80 something times now, right, that they should be running for president, right? If we live in this binary of the wicked are punished, right? It's like, I can look around this world and see clearly that the wicked are not being punished, right? I can look at all of the things that are happening and people continue to do wrong, and they're rewarded, or they get away. And then I see innocent people being killed. Breonna Taylor is no longer with us. George Floyd is no longer with us. And we see innocent people being killed. We know that the death penalty is being used and continually killing innocent folks. So his view of God does not align with the realities of the people on the ground. It does not align with the realities of people's lived experience. And so, as I said, he claims to have received this knowledge through a prophetic vision. He actually says it's in a whirlwind, which is a familiar prophetic motif. And I think it's interesting that the writer did that on purpose, right? Because it's like, oh yeah, God said, and I heard it a vision and in the whirlwind, right? So then that brings up thinking about, Jeremiah and Isaiah and all of these wonderful prophets, the whirlwind and the windstorm and all of these things. And remember in week 1, I talked about the wisdom community being akin to the scientific community of our time now. And so what's important to understand is that the writer isn't aligned with the absolute authority of so-called visions, because the wisdom community uses critical observation, rational analysis instead of relying on revelation from a deity or so-called revelation from a religious leader. See, this is how you avoid cults, right? Cults are always rooted in absolute authority and revelation of one person who somehow has a special relationship with the divine, and so you have to sit at their feet to hear the words of God. So then this leads us to an understanding that from this wisdom community and from the perspective of the writer of Job, wisdom exists in, through, and as all things. Wisdom is not something that's acquired by humans, but is discerned by humans. And that's just a little preview to think about what we're going to talk about once we do meet God in the whirlwind with Job. And so as Eliphaz is saying all of these things, of course, Eliphaz is basically saying, you need to repent. You need to tell God, I'm sorry for sinning against you. And then God will heal and forgive you. And Job responds, and one of the ways he responds in chapter 6, I love this particular translation, which is from the biblical scholar Norman Habel. The despairing need the loyalty of a friend when they forsake the fear of Shaddai. And so his only words to him, because Eliphaz is like, you're wrong, and I can tell you why, because I stand in the authority of the prophetic vision, prophetic tradition, and I had a vision, and I had a heavenly download, right? And Job is saying, the despairing need the loyalty of a friend. When someone is in despair, when someone is feeling down and out, when someone is even questioning God or questioning whether they believe in God, he says when they forsake the fear of God, even if that person is completely forsaking God, given the situation that they're in, given the unimaginable suffering that they're in, what that person needs is the loyalty of a friend. What about your friends? That was Job's response, because nowhere, you didn't hear me say it, nowhere does Eliphaz ever acknowledge Job's suffering. He just immediately goes in on him, right? On his authority and why Job is wrong and why God is right. And for Job, he no longer feels that he was made in the image of God and likeness of God. He feels enslaved by God, right? And so again, this is why he said things, later, like, man is born of a woman and full of trouble, right? Because he feels enslaved, and he uses that very language. In the text, a servant is some of the translations, or slave. Doomed and destined, he believes that he is doomed and destined to unearned punishment and suffering. He says that he loathes life. He says that I don't have a mediator. If this were regular life and I was innocent, I could go to court and I could have a lawyer and someone would advocate for me. I don't have a mediator to help clear my name, even though I'm innocent, because nobody can call God down from the sky and give God a subpoena and force God to show up in court. And then he says, I've become the laughing stock. I've become the laughing stock to my friends and the laughing stock of my community. And many times, unfortunately, in our days and time now, innocent sufferers are made to appear as though they were wrong. We were watching a documentary last week that was on the generations, and the episode we were watching was Gen X, and during that time was when Clarence Thomas was confirmed as Supreme Court Justice. And we all know that Anita Hill came forward to provide necessary testimony to speak to his character, which should have nullified him from becoming a Supreme Court justice. And you look at what happened at that time, and it was like she was wrong. Something was wrong with him, her rather than there's something being wrong with him. right? And we see, even fast forwarding to this century, Amy Coney Barrett, she was treated in the same way. And so this lament that Job is screaming is the lament of women like Anita Hill, women like I think I had the name wrong. I'm sorry, but the woman that accused one of the more recent Supreme Court justices. I'll get her name in a minute. We see the same thing happening, and so then we have another friend, Bildad. Now, Bildad, he doesn't rest on the prophetic tradition, right? He doesn't rest on this idea of divine downloads or a heavenly vision that has shown me the truth, and so this is what it is, Job. He operates in a place that I just think of as like old-time religion. What he's sitting on and is choosing to remind Job of is the tradition of the fathers, the tradition of the patriarchs. And so he's saying to Job that there's, traditional wise wisdom that is in his mind stood the test of time and can even speak to this moment that Job is in. And that's what he must rest on. And so he offers him a parable about deep roots and shallow roots, right? And he sees Job's trauma then as self-inflicted because he won't listen to and heed the wisdom of the fathers, the wisdom of the tradition, the wisdom of the patriarchs. Bildad also offers that maybe Job is suffering because of the sins of his children. You remember in the prologue, as we were reading about Job being upright and fearing God and being righteous, it says he was so righteous that he was afraid that his children may have committed some sort of sin, so he would offer sacrifices on their behalf. And so Bildad is saying, well, maybe you didn't offer enough sacrifices, right? Maybe your children are the reason and the root for your suffering. And this is something that's interesting to me when we think about tradition. One, it reminds me of one of my favorite quotes from Joseph Campbell in The Power of Myth, where he says, the virtues of our past become the vices of our present. And so we can't solely rest on this idea of tradition, because even if the tradition, if it was a virtue for the past, and sometimes that's questionable, but let's just say it was for that time, many times when we try to bring that virtue, those things into the present, they become vices, right? They become something that holds us back because we have more information. The world is different. Science has opened our hearts and minds to new things. We've traveled to space. We understand the galaxy, and we can communicate and connect with each other in ways that we couldn't before. So we can't just immediately say, because this was how it was always done, or it was good enough for my grandmother and good enough for my grandfather is good enough for me. That actually may not be true. And then when we look at this idea of still putting the blame on someone, in this case, now we have 10 children who were murdered and can't speak for themselves. Like, well, maybe it's their fault that you're suffering. And one of the things that this brings to mind for me is the ways in which people go to their past lives to talk about why they're suffering now. Now, again, this is something we've taught and preached on in the past. You can go to the Life After Life sermon series, and we talk about this. The only thing that matters is now. We're living from now to now, and now, and now, and now, right? So, yes, many times the things we do or think yesterday impact today. But whatever your past life was, whatever you did, whatever happened, it does not have any bearing on the now. You're not being punished because of what you did or who you were in your past life. Take a breath, set yourself free right here and right now. And so one of the textual clues that we get, I talk about Bildad being about this, the truth in tradition and the patriarchs and the ancient fathers. One of the textual clues, and the reason we know this, and again, this is one of those things where because we're reading the text in English, we're missing this because we just simply see God or Lord. And in our minds as English readers, it's all referring to the same thing, and it's not. The word that for God that Bildad uses is El Shaddai. Now, I shared earlier that after we get out of the prologue, we don't hear Yahweh used again, right? And so God is called El Shaddai, and this is the name of God as used in the Abraham story. The Abraham story is considered the origin of all, right? And not just of Judaism, right? Not just of Christianity, not just of Islam, right? The Abraham story is considered the origin story of the entire ancient Near East. So when we talk about the fathers or the patriarchs, and Job would be one of these, this is what we're talking about. And so this is our clue that Bildad is speaking from and representing that tradition. And it's also important to note then that El is viewed differently than Yahweh. That El is seen as compassionate, that El was referred to as the kindly one, El the merciful. Interesting. You hear the connection with Islam, right? Allah the merciful. The roots are all the same, y'all. The roots are the same. The kindly one, El, the merciful. And so in Bildad's mind, he was well-intentioned because El is kind and merciful, because the God of Abraham, El Shaddai, is kind and merciful. All Job has to do is plead for mercy, and El will be kind and compassionate. And so then he tells this parable of the deep roots and the shallow roots, right? That if you follow the ways of El, if you follow the teachings of El, if you honor and worship El as our forefathers have done, as the way Abraham has done, and we could get into the problematic nature of the Abraham story, right? Isaac has something to say, when we think about being ready to sacrifice your own child and murder your own child, right? But nevertheless, this is the tradition that he's calling on, right? That you need that level of faithfulness. And when you have those deep roots, then you're honored. Shallow roots, all will just wash away. Now, this also, for me, reminds me of the holiness tradition that I grew up in. Because at the end of the day, that's what it was all about. If things weren't going well, then you must not be honoring God. You must not be living holy, right? If calamity is showing up at your door, if problems, if drama is showing up at your door, you need to get right with God, right? And then there's a level of fear that was involved in that because Jesus is coming soon. So if you're not right, then you're gonna go to hell. And so that's why we were at the altar every Sunday as young people. We're at the altar every Sunday, getting saved and saved again, and saved again. But it also reminds me of stories that I've heard within our own New Thought communities and traditions, because New Thought can be weaponized and cause great harm in the same way. There are ministries and communities that effectively have sat folks down, because based on what's going on in their lives, if you're holding debt, then you must be holding on to unforgiveness and not practicing the teachings. And so we can't have you praying for other people. We can't have you in leadership. This is happening in New Thought communities. If you didn't know, I'm happy you didn't know, because maybe that means, the CSC doesn't practice those things. But it doesn't matter what the spiritual belief system is. It doesn't matter what the theology is, right? There's an underlying and sometimes overarching way of being that's still about this reward and punishment, and that there must be something wrong with you. And so in response, as we were reading Job's responses to his friends, Job lists his charges against God. And here I'm quoting biblical scholar Norman C. Habel, who again is a wonderful authority on the book of Job, and one of my North Stars when it comes to reading this text. He writes, Job's declaration of his charges against God include the testimony that God created Job with the intention of destroying him. Because that's what it feels like at this point. And this is something that many people ask and critique. Even when we think about the so-called beautiful story of going from Adam and Eve to Jesus, right? That there was original sin, and then God created itself as its son, murdered the son so that the son could be the ultimate sacrifice for all of us. Right? It feels weird. It's like, well, God created us to destroy us? To just send us to hell? Job is lamenting this. He goes on that all the love God has allegedly bestowed on Job has remained hidden. He's like, where's the love now? Right? And it's sure ain't showing up through my friends. that God is obsessed with discovering Job's sins, that God saturates Job with misery in spite of his innocence, that God hunts Job as if he were a lion, and that God finds witnesses against Job to prove his guilt. And so this is a wonderful, kind of beautiful just synopsis of how Job is responding, and particularly as his friends are making these claims. And so we come to the final friend, Zophar. Now, Zophar is interesting because Zophar thinks he's deep. I mean, if Eliphaz didn't think he was deep, you know, Eliphaz is like prophetic tradition. I had a vision, whirlwind, blah, blah, blah. And Bildad thinks he's deep because he's like, I understand the wisdom of the fathers, and this is what I'm practicing, and this is what we have all practiced. And, you know, why are you abandoning the teachings? Zophar claims to be initiated in the esoteric mysteries of God, right? Zophar believes that God has hidden ways that the uninitiated cannot understand. I might be stepping on some toes right now, because particularly in our spiritual new thought and even new age folks, this is how some of y'all operate, right? Everything is low vibration except you. And so as he speaks to Job, he says this, I'm reading from chapter 11. For you say, my conduct is pure and I am clean in God's sight. But oh, that God would speak and open his lips to you, and that he would tell you the secrets of wisdom, for wisdom is many-sided. Know then that God exacts of you less than your guilt deserves. Now, this is terrible from a friend. And again, the word friend is used because all of these people were his friends. He's saying, first of all, you out here claiming innocence. But again, as the other friends have said, there's no way you could really be innocent because you wouldn't be experiencing this if you were. And actually, whatever you are experiencing is less than what you actually deserve, because that's how cold God really is. But he also talks about wisdom, because again, he believes that he's initiated in the esoteric mysteries of wisdom. And so he says wisdom is many-sided. Another translation puts it a little clearer. It just says there are two sides to understanding. And sometimes this is the dismissive way, as I've shared in the past weeks, God's ways are past finding out, that you'll never know God's ways. You can't understand God's ways, so you just have to accept it. Don't question God, and it is what it is. Zophar sees Job as an uninitiated fool. He uses the word, and claims to hold superior knowledge. And so Zophar's advice to Job is to turn to God and cleanse himself. We read it in chapter 11, verses 13 through 16. If you direct your heart rightly, you will stretch out your hands toward him being God. If iniquity is in your hand, put it far away, and do not let wickedness reside in your tents. Now, again, see, the holiness in me, I grew up in the holiness tradition. See, the holiness folk would talk about that you don't even sit in the seat of the scornful, right? Don't even let wickedness reside in your tent. See, that's your problem, Job. You've been entertaining some wickedness, right? Again, in the holiness tradition, you were listening to something you shouldn't be listening to. At one point, my sister and I threw away all of our tapes and CDs because we didn't want to have wickedness residing in our tents. He goes on. Surely then you will lift up your face without blemish. You will be secure and will fear not. You will forget your misery. You will remember it as waters that have passed away. And so this is what Zophar is telling him he must do. And this reminds me of another scripture that is still used to this day to blame the victim. Ironically, it is part of the wisdom writings. It's a wisdom text because the words are placed in the mouth of Solomon, because he has been mythologized as the great possessor of wisdom in this First Testament tradition. And this was a common practice in the ancient Near East to write in the name of a great thinker, teacher, or patriarch. 2 Chronicles 7:14. And again, we read the words, they're put in the mouth of Solomon. If my people who are called by my name will humble themselves, pray, seek my face, turn from their wicked ways, then will I hear from heaven, forgive their sin, and heal their land. Every time there's a hurricane, there's some preacher somewhere that will preach this. Every time another unarmed black man is killed, there's some preacher somewhere that's going to preach this. Every time some sort of unimaginable suffering happens, the victims are blamed. You haven't humbled yourselves. You're not praying enough. You're not seeking God's face. You're not turning from your wicked ways. And until you do that, God is not going to listen to you. God is not going to answer you. You have no line connected to heaven. Therefore, you have no access to forgiveness of sins. Therefore, you have no access to the healing of your land. And this is the type of thinking, this is the type of preaching, this is the type of misguided, misinformed thinking that has preachers scolding congregations today. There was a preacher I heard recently, this was just shared on Instagram, that was preaching to his congregation that said that laziness is the reason why people are experiencing depression and anxiety. And this was a black preacher talking to black people. A traumatized community in this nation. You're idle, you're lazy. And so then you allow space for anxiety and depression to come into you, the spirit of, that's the other one, they call it a spirit. This is the type of thinking that has another very famous preacher preaching that folks wanting to work remotely and work from home is the cause and the downfall of America, suggesting again that folks are being lazy. And because of that, you're the problem. You're the reason why there are problems in this country. That particular preacher said that you're more worried about convenience. This is the type of thinking that has another popular preacher speaking one of the most egregious falsehoods I've ever heard in my life, preaching that the reasons for the beautiful country of Haiti's political, social, and economic problems are due to the practice of vaudou. Of course, he said voodoo. Misguided and misinformed victim blaming. Nowhere are these preachers speaking truth to power. Nowhere are these preachers speaking to the systemic nature of existence in this country. Nowhere are these preachers speaking to the fact to understand the conditions that lead to outcomes. But as we talked about last week, that anybody that's experiencing depression, anxiety, or any number of other things, addictions, living alarms, saying, pay attention. This is not normal. This is not normal. And so Zophar represents, really all three of them do, but specifically in this case, Zophar represents spiritual use of victim blaming. Because what all of these hot takes from Job's friends, Eliphaz, Bildad, and Zophar, it's victim blaming, there's zero empathy, and there's a narrow-minded view of life in the world. Because they state emphatically these ideas that God relishes in punishing the wicked, and they say these factual ideas that God rewards those who are faithful to him. And yet we have someone like Job that Job has been completely faithful, more faithful than any human could possibly be, right? And that's part of why it's written that way, right? It's fantastic. Like nobody is as pure or clean or as innocent as Job, and you don't have to be, right? That's not the point. And so even this person is experiencing unearned and unimaginable suffering and punishment. But their narrow-minded view can't see that. Their narrow-minded view won't entertain a new concept of God. And that's what the writer is taking us to. This is the ride we're going on, y'all. That there is a power and a presence that we call God. And it operates in a way that is not like this traditional covenant God that rewards and punishes. And the beautiful thing about life, once you have an experience like this, in the way that the community that the writer is writing about has, and once we have an experience like this in our own lives, it should cause us to question. And in that process, we may want to abandon it altogether. But what the book of Job invites us to do as we take the story is to understand God in a new way, embrace a new understanding, awareness, and concept of God. Now, in the song, What About Your Friends, TLC sings, what about your friends? Will they stand their ground? Will they let you down? Hey. What about your friends? Are they going to be low down? Will they ever be around? What? Or will they turn their backs on you? Don't be like Job's friends. Last week, we talked about empathetic listening that must be followed up with empathetic responding. First, acknowledging the pain, the grief, the trauma, the suffering. And start there and don't say anything else. Ain't nobody offer him no medicine. Ain't nobody offer him a blanket. Ain't nobody offer him some soup. Ain't nobody offer him space in their house to just rest. None of that. Before you start talking about what you think is going on or what you think God is doing or what you think he should do or should not do or they should do or should not do. I was reading an account recently, a young woman who was sexually assaulted in the military in Florida. And people had a lot of things to say about what she should and should not do. And why didn't you report this? And why didn't you report that? And she began to talk about the experience that she had on that base. When she actually went to report, she fled the scene. She fled the trauma, wrapped in a blanket. They had taken her clothes, traumatized. And at that moment, what did they do? They put her in one of those rooms, those interrogation rooms with the fluorescent light. And she had to sit there by herself for 30 minutes. And then they started just questioning her. Well, what did you do? Well, what were you wearing? And what did you drink? And blah, blah, blah. Nobody consoled her. Right? There were no trauma counselors. There was no empathetic listening. And so we recognize that we need to change how we operate in this world. And if we're going to take anything from this book of Job, these are the kinds of things that we must take. Friend one, Eliphaz, divine prophetic revelation, visions in the whirlwind. Friend two, Bildad, truth in tradition. Give me that old time religion. Give me that old time religion. It was good enough for my mother. It was good enough for my father. It's good enough for me and for you, Job. Friend three, Zophar, wisdom has two sides to understanding. And for those that aren't woke enough, those that aren't deep, those that don't understand, you're not going to understand what God is really doing. And so all others, like Job, are ignorant fools. And I want to echo something. I talked about this last week, this idea of ultimately it's all about, do you have love for one another? I'm reminded of the words that we read, from Paul. Paul writes about in one of his letters, I've experienced all kinds of things. I've been to, had out of body experiences and seen things that in his words are not lawful to speak. But also we read, from this wisdom as well, right? I could speak in the tongues of men and angels. I can do wonderful things. I can have out-of-body experiences and talk about other dimensions, and that's wonderful and good. But if I don't have love, all of the rest of that is worthless. So Zophar may have deep wisdom. Zophar may be initiated. But how do you show that you're truly initiated? By operating in and from love. So this week, I encourage you to observe the world. Observe it in the news media, observe in social media and in your personal interactions. Look at the ways Job's friends still show up and are alive and well in various points of view. More importantly, look for the ways Job's friends show up in your thinking and speaking. Because in the end of this story, the only people that God rebuked, we use that word lightly because it's a story, were Job's friends. Job wasn't rebuked or called wrong, but in the story, God rebukes the friends. So my question to you today is, what about your friends? To this truth, I say amen, ashe, and so it is.
feel so light.
Beautiful.
And I say that because the way that PG is breaking this down, the way that it is healing something within everyone from your comments, it's so important. And I don't know that I've ever heard anyone take the care, the time to teach Job in this way. And there might be some people that get to question what they've thought about God or Job or any of these things, and come to the realization that if the God that you are serving is not loving and kind and empathetic and would never ever punish, then maybe you need to rethink that God concept and get one that will support you in living the life that you want to live. We can't tell you what to believe or what to think. We never would. We can present the information and you make the determination. What is your God?
Right.
And what kind of friends are you?
Yeah.
Really, let's be honest. What kind of friend are you to those in need?
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you, PG.
Oh, thank you. I'm just seeing in the comments, thank you. Christine Blasey Ford.
Yes, Blasey Ford.
I said Coney
Yeah.
Barrett, who is a Supreme Court justice now, but thank you for that. And yeah, one of the powerful things here is that I remember the relief I found when I realized that there are different concepts of God even within the biblical text, right? And so that's a beautiful thing that the writer, you could decide you agree with one of Job's friends, right? And it's like, no, this is my concept of God. I believe this is how it works, right? But what the writer is doing is offering another point of view, rooted in familiar understanding, but offering a new awareness. And it is a beautiful relief when you understand that the God of your understanding is God, not the God of your mother, the God of your grandmother, whomever it may, the God of the church you grew up in, or community you came up in, whatever that may be. Ultimately, it's the God of your understanding.
Right. Which forms your belief system.
Yeah.
Which creates your reality.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. And so you get the opportunity to believe whatever you want to believe.
Yeah. Yep.
To have a relationship with the God of your understanding. But if that relationship is not loving, kind, supportive, empathetic, then you might want to rethink it. I can't wait till next week. This is so good.
Yes, yes. So in this moment, it is time for giving. You see the information on your screen. You've seen it throughout the stream. It's very easy to give to CSC. You can go to our website, celebrationsc.org/give, or you can text your dollar amount to 347-744-9500. We believe and teach a very simple spiritual principle. As you give, you receive. It's just like breathing, right? That when I exhale, I'm giving out to the trees. And when I inhale, I'm receiving that which life has given to all of us to sustain us. And as we are a spiritual community, we recognize that we give where we're spiritually fed. We give, if anything that CSC provides, if it's the meditation, the music, the message is serving you, is supporting you, is enriching your life, then that is the only reason to give, right? Not because God is mad at you or going to punish you or you're going to lose. None of that stuff, right? It's just simply we give in love because we love to give, and we give just as we give our attention to the things that we want to see more of. The same way we give of our finances to those things that we want to see more of. And so from this place of awareness, when we give, then we can affirm this truth with this affirmation with confidence. All the money that I circulate, returns to me multiplied. In a never-ending cycle. Of increase. And enjoyment. To that we say amen.
Amen.
Ashe. And so it is.
So it is.
So it is. Well, we have come to the close of another week in service. We love and appreciate you. Thank you for your continued support of CSC. Thank you for continuing to let folks know about CSC and, again, liking and sharing and subscribing and all of the wonderful things. Thank you again to those who are joining us for the first time, and we trust that we will see you again. Today is the third Sunday, God Talk Sunday. So we will be together on Zoom in just a little bit at 1 p.m. for the God Talk. I'll put the information on the screen. Where is it? For our first time guests, if you missed it earlier, text welcome to this phone number, 347-472-1078, and enter the information. You got to enter your email address. And then after you submit that, look in your inbox. You'll have an email that gives you the God Talk information so that you can join us. I know it's going to be good. I'm sure you have Job-related questions and just life-related questions. We are working on doing something specifically so that more questions can be asked around Job. So this won't be your only time, but we look forward to many of you joining us, and we'll see you soon. All right. Bye for now.
Bye for now.